Today we're diving into a big, fascinating question. But before we start, I want to ask you, what's the best relationship between a performer and a composer? Is it a collaboration, a reenactment of history, or a tug of war over creative control? Stay tuned to the end, especially if you suspect you might be the bad kind of performer. Don't worry, we'll talk about it. Let's go back in time first. For most of music history, the roles of performer and composer weren't so divided. Mozart premiered many of his piano concerti himself. Beethoven conducted and performed until his deafness largely stopped him. Paganini, the violinist, was both a composer and a virtuoso on the instrument. Clara Schumann composed, and she was known as one of the greatest pianists of her time. Well, even Franz Liszt, the ultimate performer, contributed real, important works to the repertoire. And it went both ways. Instrumentalists who didn't consider themselves composers still wrote cadenzas, arrangements, and often full pieces. It was fluid, organic, intertwined. But somewhere around the 20th century, things started to change. Why? Was it due to increasing technical demands on the performers, the rise in difficulty in compositions, the decline of improvisation, or was it simply a cultural shift towards specialization? Of course, there are incredible exceptions. Rachmaninoff, Benjamin Britten, William Bolcom, all true masters of both performance and composition. Let's zoom in on today's world. There are still performers who work hand in hand with composers. Think of Mstislav Rostropovich, the great cellist, who inspired and premiered works by Shostakovich, Prokofiev, and Britten. These were deep collaborations. Sometimes Rostropovich's suggestions even shaped the final composition. That's trust. These collaborations are thrilling. They bring nuance, idiomatic clarity, and real humanity into a new piece. So ask yourself, if you're a performer, would you rather interpret or co-create? And if you're a composer, are you open to feedback or protective of every note? Then there's the servant performer, maybe not a glamorous title, but a noble one. These are the musicians who study the score like a sacred text. They research style, theory, context. If the composer is alive, they ask questions. Sometimes a living composer cares deeply that a performer follow every indication, sometimes not. I remember performing a piano trio by Tom Benjamin and asking about what bowings he wanted, and he said, "You already have what I'm going for, so feel free to bow however you like." If the composer is not alive, the servant performer will dive into history. Everything they do is about recreating the composer's vision with integrity. Think of someone who plays Bach with a deep understanding of Baroque style, including the various types of improvisation, or someone who asks a living composer, "What does this marking mean to you?" Is this you? Are you a vessel for the composer's intentions? Is that your artistic identity? Or do you find that limiting? Now we've reached the final type, and this one might ruffle some feathers. Let's call them the self-serving performer. Stay tuned, I hope you're not in this category, or are you? This type believes that once the music is printed, it belongs to them. Sure, they'll glance at the dynamics, maybe even the tempo, but beyond that, it's all fair game. Well, why follow the marking strictly when your interpretation is more exciting? Why honor the context when your rubato is so expressive? Some say the music is dead on the page until it's animated by a performer. That's true, but does that mean we get to rewrite it with every phrase? I recently had a conversation in the comments of one of my videos with one of my subscribers who is a composer about just this issue. He described what was to me some incredibly self-serving performers who did whatever they wanted despite his input, to the point that with one performance it took several minutes for the composer to even recognize his own work. So here's the question. When does interpretation become distortion? When does expression become ego? So, what's the ideal relationship between performer and composer? Well, maybe it's all of the above in balance. Maybe we need the servant's reverence, the collaborator's curiosity, and yes, even a little of the self serving performer's daring spark. Maybe it needs to be different for different composers. For example, as in what I said in my recent video about Beethoven knowing what he was doing. I think there we should faithfully follow his markings before adding anything of ourselves into the mix. But always remember, the best music is born when humility and imagination meet. So, what type of performer are you? Comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you're a composer, what do you wish performers knew? Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that bell for more musical deep dives like this. Thanks so much for watching, and see you next time.